Hello, my name is Bryce Holland with Spruce Technologies, and today I want to show you a walkthrough of Blank Slate, which is a UI design kit that I have developed in Figma to help speed up and make our projects a little bit more consistent and accessibility compliant. So let me share my screen and we'll take a look. Okay, so we're over here in Figma, and as you can see here, we can jump over to our playground prototype. I'm just here on playground, and this just has a lot of the different components on one page so that we can see them in the prototype and see uh, some of the interactions that happen here. And of course, we have, nav bar, carousel here with the banner inside, table of contents, cards with buttons, cards that you can hover over the entire card and click the entire card. We have primary, secondary, tertiary buttons, links, form fields, map. We have card carousels. We have table, pagination, tabs. We got some accordion elements here, as well as another example of banner and footer. And so this playground is here really just to test out these interactions on the prototype. Let's go ahead and take a look under the hood. You can see here that I have logos here so that when we start a new project, we can switch out the logo of our client, and that's automatically going to start showing up in the nav bar, and we can make sure we keep track of their official logos. All of my colors are managed over here in our local variables, so we can see local variables colors, and we have primary, secondary, neutral, background, text, utility, brand, and of course these can be expanded or altered if needed. And of course we have a light mode and dark mode for each of those. And then we're also using local variables for our measurements. So standard measurements like button height, max line length, min and max input widths, corner radiuses that we're using for buttons or inputs or cards, default spacing, which is really helpful to keep things consistent and make it a little bit easier on the developers once they start putting things together, as well as our breakpoints and our minimum touch and click areas. Over here, our typography is, of course, stored in our local styles for H1s, H2s, H3s, so on and so forth, with paragraphs, captions, buttons. All of our icons are right now being pulled through material symbols. So this is a font that is installed here. It's all free and gives us access to a large library of icons. And you can see here, like this icon button, I have material icon set as the font, and we have the size. And so this size works for buttons, and this size over here works for text. And basically, we can just go into, we have this widget here in Figma for material symbols, and this helps us to find whichever symbol we want to use at the time. So we type in user and place this in and just figure out that the name of this is going to be 3P, and that's what we're going to use in the button or wherever we're using the icon. Here's our responsive breakpoints that I have set up into 4 different size categories of small, medium, large, and extra large. So the standard ones that we're using, so that all the components are assigned one or multiple of these size categories to their variants. We'll see that in just a second. And then we go up to a maximum of 1620 pixels, so that's definitely wide enough to handle most laptops without getting to the max size. And then we have some examples of actual devices and where they land on those breakpoints. Is that what we have there? Okay, we have a section of page components. Many of our clients are working off a CMS, so we want to make sure that they can add components and adjust them around, manage the content on their pages. And so you can see here that these components with the asterisks are ones that the client may add to their page directly. Obviously, footer and nav bar are going to be on each page, so those are not going to be ones that the user would want to be able to add or remove. And yeah, as we go through here, we can see that, for example, uh, this banner component, we have a small size that works on phones, and then we have a medium to extra large size that works everywhere else. And if we pull this up here as an instance, we can see that we have all of these properties set up, so it's easy to customize these banners, as well as it's very helpful to hand off to the developers so that they know which properties are available for the user to input data into. And we can simply switch over to the different size categories as well. If we scroll down here to button is a really good example. Here we have different colors that we can have with our buttons, primary, secondary, tertiary, as we looked at before. Each of these has multiple states predefined: default, hover, pressed, focus, disabled. That focus state, very important for our accessibility requirements, as well as some annotations here to help define, why we're doing certain things or things to watch out for. For instance, all of these buttons are set up so that the minimum height is 44 pixels so that they work with touchscreens. So we can use the same component on touchscreens as on clickable devices, like with the mouse. But of course, we have the visible button kind of inlaid inside this click area. So the button doesn't have to look 44 pixels tall, but the click area has to be at least that tall so that you can touch it with your fingers on your iPhone or iPad. And of course, all of this stuff is pre-hooked up through our prototyping, so that when I pull in this button into my prototype, it's automatically going to do the hover state when I hover over it. So that's going to speed things up quite a bit. And of course, we can use this with our variables to quickly change the styling of our components for each of our clients. We don't expect all of our clients to have UI that looks exactly like this. So we can go in and change, for instance, we could change the button height to 36 and the corner radius for our buttons to 24. And if we do that, now our buttons are changing kind of their shape and their size, and we can manage that from here. Of course, if we pull this up, we can show the left icon, the right icon. If we get rid of the text entirely, we have an icon button. And then this is, of course, where we can put in those names of those material symbols icons. So if we put in the right name there, then this icon will automatically update, which is really nice. Okay, just a couple of things we want to look at here are inputs. Again, inputs like buttons, very important. There's lots of different states that we want to manage, especially those error states that are going to come with the error message that pops up underneath those. So those are all built in, and we don't have to rebuild those for every single client project that we do. And on, as you can see, we have lots of different components, and we can continue to add and adjust those. The ideal scenario here is that with Blank Slate, when you start a new project, you can duplicate this file to use for your client, and then you can do whatever you want with your file, change it however you want to make sure that they have a good design. And then if you find new components that were helpful, or you want to come back and make adjustments to the Blank Slate master file, you can, of course, come over here and create a branch and then make changes there, merge those changes back into the master file so that all the designers can benefit from the improvements of everyone else. Okay, so that's a quick overview of what we're working with here with Blank Slate. Again, this is constantly being improved and iterated upon, but it has helped in our process so that, once we get through those wireframes and we want to start to dive into, high fidelity UI prototypes, we can easily pull in some components, change some variables on the styling, and quickly get to showing our clients what the site is going to look like when it's developed. All right, thank you for watching.